and welcome to Magical Thursday Live. So if you missed it on Monday, I had just kind of come back from a weekend away and was not as prepared for this live stream as I wanted to be. So that's why we're doing it today on Thursday. And today's live stream is about budget witchery. Because we live in like this amazing Instagram sort of world where we can follow these people who have these perfect altars on Instagram and with the perfect plates and the perfect setting and the perfect cloths and the perfect bowls and like everything is perfect and beautiful and looks so witchy. And I just want to start off by saying like that is not most of reality. Most of reality is not like that. So I just kind of wanted to start off by saying that, just putting it out there, that your altar does not have to look perfect like everything on Instagram. I see a lot of people wanting like altar inspiration in some other groups, and everybody posts all of these beautiful things where, you know, they spent tons of money, you know, getting these things for the most part. And, you know, just cabinets and cabinets of herbs and, you know, 100 tarot card sets and all of these things. And honestly, like, I have a ton of crap. Like, I'm not going to lie. I'm not going to come to you and be like, I've never spent money on things. No, this right here, this curtainy thing is covering a bunch of crap. Like if you practice for 20 years and you become a high priestess in a coven, you will acquire that much crap. So when I'm talking about budget witchery, I'm talking about acquiring things as you need them. You don't need to buy everything right now. And you definitely don't need these expensive tools to practice. So I'm going to just jump right in and talk about the first thing you can do when you are on a super budget and you want to have a passionate and sustainable witchcraft practice. Just kind of start out by going with whatever you already have access to. I mean, you probably have access to more than you think. You can save your jars, your mayo jars, your condiment jars, all of those sorts of jars, and just clean them out, and you can use them to store herbs or whatever you want to store. You can use them to make witch bottles out of. You can use them to store nails or wood pieces or whatever you want to keep. Like, I think we really don't think about things as we're like recycling or throwing things away, but really, if you think about how many people are switching from plastic to glass, mainly for the sustainability thing, mainly to build their brand. We've got a lot of really cool glass things. Hi, Phoebe. We've got a lot of cool companies that are switching to glass, and that allows us to reuse them. Like before this weekend, I bought a raspberry lemonade thing in a glass jar because I knew I could reuse it again. I could put, you know, I was juicing some blood oranges and I thought to myself, oh, I could probably put this in this jar. And I could do the same thing with my moon water or, you know, whatever it is that I'm trying to keep, a tincture, if I'm making a tincture, or an oil, or a this or that. Like, so, you know, remember that think about the things that you're already getting rid of, you're throwing away, or you're recycling. You can go ahead and clean them out and use them for other purposes. One other thing, and this is the perfect time to start this, is to create a garden. So it's the spring, it's time, it's like the seasonal energy is kind of encouraging us to plant seeds, both physically and kind of like on the ethereal plane. You know, we're kind of planting seeds of what we want to harvest later in the year. That's part of the wheel of the year's energy. So in addition to planting your seeds like mentally or spiritually, you know, start a garden. That is pretty inexpensive. And it really doesn't take too much. You know, seeds are pretty cheap. You can, what a lot of people do is they'll get together with some friends and do kind of a seed swap, because you're not going to need like probably a whole packet of cucumber seeds or whatever, unless cucumbers are your favorite food, then go on with your bad self. But, you know, if you want to, you know, make basil and you want to make basil, make it. If you want to grow basil or grow rosemary or grow mint or grow whatever, you know, reach out to your friends, see who else who else is creating like an herb garden? I'm pretty sure in a lot of these witchcraft groups on Facebook, there are some seed swaps, or if not on witchcraft groups, then on garden groups, because a lot of people, again, are planting their seeds and getting ready to kind of create their gardens. You can also use your kitchen herbs and spices. This is something that a lot of people are kind of afraid to do, because we have this like this, what do you call it? Like this feeling of what we want our witchy stuff to look like. And a lot of times that's like an apothecary with all of these beautifully labeled matching jars, and you open your cabinet and they're right there. Like we have all of these like things that are in our head of what our like witchcraft stuff should look like. Thanks, Instagram. But even before Instagram, you know, there was that, like, you know, we've all probably seen the witchy movies like Practical Magic, and they have this beautiful apothecary, and everybody wants to have this beautiful apothecary. Turns out you have that apothecary, it's just in your kitchen. So you can use your basil and your rosemary and your cardamom and your paprika and your pepper and your chili powder and your cinnamon and your nutmeg and your allspice, all of the things that you have in your spice cabinet, you can use in your witchcraft as well. Like you can create a witch bottle, a lot of things like, hot foot powders, a lot of like peppery things that you can get out of your kitchen spice rack. Now that doesn't mean don't buy that doesn't mean don't buy herbs, but just think about like what you're purchasing. And if if you are like, well, can't spend $4 on basil at the market because it's expensive, then either you can look at the Dollar Tree, or you can look at in the grocery store. A lot of times there's like a Mexican spice space, and instead of like fancy little jars, they're in like little plastic bags, and that works just as well. So don't discount the fact that you basically have an apothecary in your kitchen. You've got all kinds of herbs. Now, do you probably have mugwort? No. Do you probably have damiana? No. Do you have yarrow? Probably not. But I would, just because it sounds cool to have doesn't mean you need to go out and buy it right now. So you would probably want to wait on some of those things until you have a working that needs those actual herbs to go purchase them. I'm going to talk about like what to splurge on in a second. Craft bits and bobs. So a lot of witchcraft is actually crafting, like making an amulet or making a talisman or creating a protection bracelet or making a poppet. And with a lot of that comes, actual crafting. And you don't have to go to Joann and plunk down $60 or whatever for the perfect piece of fabric and that perfect everything. The yarn to match your subject's hair perfectly. You don't need all of that. Is it sometimes helpful? Sometimes it is, but it doesn't mean you need that at all. You might have some scrap fabric and some scrap yarn and a needle and a thread, and that's pretty much all you need. You're like, okay, well, if you don't have polyfill to fill your poppet, which is pretty inexpensive, but you have like cotton balls around in your house, shove that thing full of cotton balls. It doesn't matter. You have extra fabric, you need to fill a poppet, use that extra fabric. Just use like what you have around your house, especially when it comes to crafts. Any kind of wire is good. Beads are good. And again, if you have other friends who are crafty, that's really super helpful. So if you, for example, if you wanted to make a bracelet and you wanted carnelian, or you wanted citrine, or you wanted like amethyst for it, if we were friends and you're like, hey, I really wish I had some amethyst beads, I could open up my thing and see if I have some amethyst beads or some jasper beads or whatever it is that you need. So another thing that is another idea about being a witch on a budget is to network and to, kind of combine resources with other people. If I have a ton of mugwort and you need mugwort, and you have a ton of lavender and I want lavender, you can trade. And this doesn't mean like you have to like be best friends with people, but we have so many awesome resources for networking now. And it's not just Meetup, it's not just this group, but there are many local Facebook groups that are witchy or pagan. And you can just easily say, hey, I have a citrine crystal and I need that I'm willing to part with, and I need 3 tablespoons of lavender, can anybody help me out? And then, you can drive to a public place and make that trade. Also, when in regards to crafting and bits and bobs and all of that, think about all your old clothes. Like, so we've got a lot of clothes, right, that we either grow out of or we have holes in, etc. And some of it we probably take to the thrift store, but some of it has holes, and nobody's going to want to buy your crappy, holy 10-year-old adorable rayon dress from, 10 years ago. You can go ahead and cut that up, and you can use that in your witchcraft. You can use it to make herb bundles. You could use it for poppets. You could use it, you can like create yarn with it, and do some sort of like crochet or knitting project. There are tons of things you can do with old clothes. So that's another idea. So what I want to do now is I kind of want to talk about different things and where you can get them on a budget and when you want to splurge. Because yeah, you're on a budget, but at some point you might have some extra money. Tax time's coming and you might want to splurge on something. So I want to kind of talk about like things that you could make your own self or get for super cheap or, very affordable prices, and what you probably want to splurge on. Or if not splurge on, then, be very mindful when you are purchasing. So let's just start with altar tools. Altar tools. When I say altar tools, I'm talking about your pentacle, your athame, your wand, your chalice or goblet, bowls that sit on your altar, and candle. And candles. I'll lump candles in with that as well. And I know I'm just talking about it kind of like from the like generic, common, like pagan / Wicca sort of altar. Those are some things that you probably will have. A lot of those things you can make yourself. You can make your own pentacle. You can buy some clay. You can make salt dough. If you don't know how to make salt dough, it's super, super easy. You can just Google it, or, you could probably just search in Pinterest salt dough pentacle and see what comes up, and it will probably tell you how to do that. Same thing with some statuary. You can create like goddess figures from salt dough or from modeling clay or from polymer clay and paint them. And there are some really, I wish I should have gotten this out. There are some really awesome instructions out there on how to make like some cool, like fetishes or like statuary for your altar out of polymer clay or modeling clay or salt dough. And I have this really cool thing. In my coven, we had a coven that hived off from us, and that high priestess, we were kind of like overlapping and doing classes back and forth. So like my group would host one month and her group would host another month as we were actually making the hive happen. And her group hosted this really amazing like goddess statuary sort of. It didn't stand up, but it was like making a goddess out of clay. And it was really, really awesome. And I still have mine. I love it so much. So like the things that you're making with your hands, when you make something with your hands, especially a tool that you're going to use in ritual or ceremony or something like that, you're putting all of your energy like into that. Your energy naturally comes out of your hands and your feet. That's why most of the time when we begin to learn how to ground, we ground through our feet. And the same thing with our hands, like our energy comes out of our hands. So when we're hand making something, we have all of this positive and awesome energy that's going into whatever it is that we're doing. So you can make your own altar tools. Also a good place to look for altar tools, the thrift store. So like I've got a Savers up the street, and I go to the thrift store maybe like once a month, maybe once every couple months, depending on my budget. And like how much space I have, because I keep trying to get rid of things and I keep wanting to like buy new pretty things. And one good place to buy the pretty things is at the thrift store. So we have all kinds of beautiful wine glasses. You don't need a pewter goblet unless you really, really, really want one. And if you really, really want one, if your soul is like, I need a pewter goblet, then again, that's something that you'll want to splurge on. But if not, my first goblet I bought at like the Mikasa outlet at Ontario Mills Mall in Ontario, California. So, and I still have it. It's still my favorite, but like it's like so far back because I'm afraid to break it because that's my first thing. But, like, and it was a whole whopping, I think, $7 because it was at the outlet because it has like a little bubble or something in it. But it's beautiful and it's blue and I love it so much. And it's still my favorite goblet. And it was $7. Do I have a pewter goblet that cost me like 20 something dollars? I did. I think I might have gifted it away. I tend to just gift things away. Also, good thing if you have witchy friends and they have a lot of things, they will just give you things if you want them. But you don't need a pewter goblet. You just need something to drink from. It doesn't. I really liked something personally separate. I like something separate to sit on my altar. I want it to look different than what I have in my kitchen. Now I'm a kitchen witch a little bit, and I can talk about that. I'm actually going to talk about that a little bit next week. But on my altar, I like to have something that looks a little bit different because it allows me to, when I am doing ritual or I am doing meditation or I'm doing devotionals, it allows me to more easily realize that I'm stepping into something else. I might be drinking from this goblet, or I might be filling this goblet full of water, and it is not the same wine glass that it's not the same cup I'm drinking out of as I'm doing a live stream. It allows me to kind of make that shift from like the mundane to magical more easily. So you can easily find things for $2, super cheap at the thrift store. Also, for altar tools, you can look at Target. They have a lot of little bowls. Also, Home Goods. If you don't have a Home Goods near you, I could drop $1 bazillion at Home Goods. Like, I have to just rein it in. I don't even get a cart anymore because there's so many things I want to put on my altar. And a lot of these things are really inexpensive. They're less than $10, where other places they'd be like $20 to $30. And they even have like geodes and crystals and selenite towers now. But especially good are the little bowls. So little bowls are amazing for water or salt or, offerings or, decorative things. If you want to put like some little pretty eggs because it's the springtime, you could put that in a little bowl. I have a lot of little bowls. Like, I feel like I could have you all over to my house and have 40 different dips, and I feel like I would have like at least maybe not 40, probably like 17 different dips, and I could find a little bowl for all of them. And most of those little bowls, I got them all at the thrift store or Target. I'm trying to think if I have a little bowl over there. I don't have a little bowl on my altar right now, but I have a tiny little pitcher. Also, pitchers. If you like pitchers, Home Goods, man. Home Goods. I bought this cute little one that is right there for like $4, and it's about this. It's like a creamer, but if you're doing some sort of water magic, or you are part of a path where water is important, like a lot of like the Hellenic Reconstructionists, they make kernips, which is like a purified water sort of, where it's a process, and then you like splash it on your hands, or you can anoint yourself with this like sacred cleansing water. And like pitchers like that are good for that. And you can just buy them for super cheap at Home Goods or a thrift store. Okay. Candles. Candles. Let's talk about candles for a second. Almost every witch I know uses candles in one way or another. And there are some candles that we use for illumination because many times we're working at night. And we use some candles for spell work. And we just kind of want to make sure that we are choosing our candles kind of mindfully. So you can buy candles at the Dollar Tree. Are they going to be the best candles? Are they going to be like, soy supernatural, like not supernatural, but like super natural candles? Probably not, because you're spending $1 for them. So they're probably old dinosaurs made into candles. They're probably just like paraffin, which is fine. I make candles out of paraffin. That's fine too. But, just kind of beware that that's what you're, know what you're getting, I guess, is kind of what I'm trying to say. Also, the grocery store novena candles. I'm assuming, at least in my grocery store, you can buy the novena candles, like this one right here And this one over here, just like the tall glass candles, many times they have Jesus on them, or Mary or Guadalupe, whatever, or saints. You can use those. But like most, at least my grocery store has them without any people on them. There are no pictures on them. And they have them, strangely enough, they have them in white and red and yellow and green and blue. So in my coven, since like the beginning, that's what we've used for our quarter candles, because the cool thing about novena candles are like they're already kind of like almost have like a hurricane thing over them a little bit. So they're less likely to blow out. If they get knocked over, they're going to most likely put themselves out. They're kind of a safe-ish sort of candle. Obviously, you never want to leave a candle unattended, disclaimer, but they are pretty safe, and you can use them for a lot of things. You can decorate them. You can, decorate the outside. I did a rain ritual. I did a public rain ritual when California was in a super, super bad drought. And as part of that, I bought a bunch of those blue candles, and I decorated the outside of them with, I think it's to like celebrate the rain, and it had a picture or something. And as part of that ritual, like there was a bunch of things that happened, but people got to take that candle home and then light it in hopes that the rain would come. So you can decorate the outside of it. You can anoint the top of it. You can still do all of that. Yeah, it's hard to kind of completely dress it like you would dress a taper candle or a chime candle or even a votive candle. You're kind of stuck with the top. But for $1, that's pretty good. And especially since they'll last a really long time. So if you wanted to do a 7-day spell, you can burn it for 7 nights. It's pretty easy. And for $1, $1.50, $2, you really can't go too wrong on that. And again, they come in green usually. I'm assuming, like, I live in Southern California. I'm not really sure what the availability is across the United States or in other countries, but here they're really, really easy to find. Yeah. So if for some reason having a super natural candle is important to you, then that might be something you want to take the time and splurge on. There are also like refillable novenas where they have the like glass, and you can like get the insert to go inside. So it looks like a novena candle, but you can remove it and like put a new one in once you're done. Those are a little bit more difficult to find. Most of the time you can find them at your metaphysical shops. So let's talk about local metaphysical shops for just a second. Now, I know we're talking about budget witchery, right? We're talking about, having a craft path when you don't have a ton of money. But when you do have some money to splurge, and you will probably feel like just going to Amazon because, Amazon brings things to your door and it's pretty flippin' helpful. But it's really important to me. So it might be important to you if you think about it. I learned how to make candles. Oh yeah, heck yeah. If you have the time, it's cost effective. I want to talk about that in just 1 second after I'm done talking about metaphysical shops. I'm going to go back to that. Okay. But I really implore you to shop locally. If you have a local metaphysical shop, go there and buy something. Because if you don't, then it will go away. It will go out of business. I don't have a super close metaphysical shop. The closest kind of metaphysical shop I have is actually really close, but it's mostly crystals. I just got an email that they're going to do like a lunar magic workshop, which makes me kind of excited because I might be like, hey, do you want me to teach some classes or whatever? But for the most part, it's mostly crystals, and they have like a drum circle sometimes. But if I need a crystal, I'm not going to go to Amazon. I'm definitely not going to buy from Sage Goddess because I have some problems with like how that they do their business. I know that's really popular as well, but yeah, I have some things that I don't like about her. But I will definitely go up the street, and like your metaphysical shops, like this metaphysical shop, I bought a ton of stuff for like really, really reasonable prices. They are very reasonably priced. So don't just assume because they have a metaphysical shop, they are going to, be really expensive. And many times metaphysical shops, they can actually order things for you. So if there's something that you see somewhere else, you can ask if they can order it for you. And then while you're buying it from them, they still will get their profit. And, that helps keep the lights on there, and that helps pay for the people. And, and a metaphysical shop isn't just a shop. Many times it's like kind of a community center. So I'm just saying so I'm going to talk really quickly about making candles. Phoebe has a really, really good point. If you do have time, and you can totally make candles and the stuff. There are some challenges. There are some very, very easy ways to make candles. You can make candles almost with just stuff from the grocery store. I once did a full moon activity where we created moon candles with mason jars, paraffin bought from the grocery store, and some cotton wicking that I just happened to have because I've made candles before. And I used the crock pot. It was so easy. You just basically cut up the paraffin, which is probably the hardest part. You get your mason jars, Scooter. You get your mason jars, you center your wicking, and you put the blocks of paraffin around it. You set all those things in, you set the jars themselves in a crock pot, put the lid on, and start your crock pot. And it melts all the wax. You don't have a huge mess. And then when you're done, you just take them out very carefully. If you have if you do canning, you might have one of those canning things. That's what I use to remove them. And then you just let them chill and dry. I might not dry, but harden up, and super easy. Candle making can get expensive if you want to make pillars, or if you want to make votives and you want to purchase the molds. That gets a little expensive. And again, it's good. That's why it's good to kind of network with crafty people. Because if somebody said, hey, do you have a pillar mold I could borrow? One of my neighbors, I'm like, heck yeah, you could totally use my pillar mold, because it's $20 for a stupid metal aluminum mold. But Phoebe, if you have any suggestions on how to make candles for cheap, I would love to hear them. So if you could post those in the comments, that'd be cool. Oh, also, what is your method for getting labels off of glass containers? I've been trying, but have a hard time with glue residue on some. So for the most part, I do the thing that you probably are already doing, is soaking them in hot soapy water, and then just peeling them off. I have this thing called Goo Gone. I don't have a whole lot left, but it's something I used all the time when I was scrapbooking. But Goo Gone is a thing that it will take labels off of anything. It will take residue off of anything. And I think you can buy it at Michael's. So look into that. A lot of the removing labels is just patience, which I don't really have a whole lot of a lot of times. And finding a good thing for scraping. I have a Pampered Chef little brown thing that, I think they sell them in packs of 3, and they really help you scrape the stuff off of your pans or whatever. Also, it's amazing because I use it at least once a week to scrape things off of my pan. But it's really helpful to scrape those labels off of the glass containers. And other than that, it's just super, super hot water, and super hot soapy water, not just regular hot water. You need that soapy water to kind of lubricate those labels so that you can get them off. Okay. Alrighty. All right, so let's talk about crystals. I talked about candles. Let's talk about crystals. You want to make sure you choose your crystals pretty carefully. It's up to you on how important it is if they're ethically sourced or not, because there are some crystals that are taken from, different parts of the world where people are being mistreated. The people who are actually digging the crystals up are being mistreated. And sometimes where it's they are hurting the land to get the crystals. So it's important to kind of think about how important that is. And I'm not saying if it's not important to you, you're a terrible person. Not at all. Not at all. We all have different priorities in life, but it's just something to kind of consider and think about. So if you go to a place, you can say, hey, if you buy something in a metaphysical shop, a lot of times you can be like, was this ethically sourced? And most people will be able to tell you yes. Or where's this from? Oh, this is from Madagascar. This is from Pakistan. A lot of times they will be able to tell you actually where the crystals were actually from. So that's one thing to think about. Another thing is a lot of people are purchasing crystals on like Wish and like cheap sites like that. And sometimes that's great, and sometimes it's glass. And I have made that mistake as well. So I'm just putting it out there that I have also made that mistake. But you know, just keep that in mind that sometimes things are great. I've bought from Wish and it's obviously super real, and sometimes I bought from Wish and it's super crappy junk that I waited for a month to get. So just kind of keep that in mind. If you want to buy a bunch of bulk crystals, you might want to think about doing that on eBay. You know, eBay does have oh cool. So eBay, you can buy bulk crystals on eBay. I've done that. I've bought bulk raw crystals. I've bought bulk tumbles, and those are pretty good. But again, if you have a chance and you know, I really suggest that you don't just buy a bunch of crystals just to have a bunch of crystals, because then you just have a bunch of crystals. And where are you even going to put those? And how are those going to be useful to you? So when we're talking about budget witchery, think about what you need right now, and that's what you probably want to focus on. So if I want to do a prosperity working and I want pyrite and aventurine and jade and I don't know, like hematite, I don't know. So let's say those are the 4 that I want. Like you first of all, think about what you actually have and what you want to do with them. So don't just buy things just to have them. Think about really what you're going to do with them, because you want to get your money's worth out of them, because you are on a budget, and so you really do need to get your money's worth. Think about what you're going to do. So because once you think about how you're going to use it, especially like with something like a crystal, if you were going to put it in like a mojo bag that you're going to wear around your neck, you don't want to buy something that's this big. You know, you're not going to wrap it. You're going to put it in a bag. So you can buy smaller crystals, or you can buy like the tiny crystals. You know, you have a lot of different options. So consider what you want to do with whatever it is that you're buying. So you're not just buying a ton of crystals that are not really suiting your purposes, because then they get stuck in a bag behind a curtain somewhere. Yeah. So just consider how you want to use what you have and what you're going to go purchase. Okay. Alrighty. Phoebe says she just found a warehouse shop in North Hollywood in California that sells everything you need for candle making for wholesale, but you also just walk in and buy stuff directly from. That's really cool. I wish I lived closer to North Hollywood. I would be making all of the candles, especially now that I have a shop on my website. And I love making candles. I think candles are flippin' amazing. Okay, so I did touch on herbs earlier. We talked about going to the grocery store. We talked about going to the Dollar Tree. We talked about, you know, growing your own in a garden. So herbs, if it's something that you can get at like the Dollar Tree or the grocery store, consider going there first. It doesn't matter that it's not magical. And I'll tell you, because now I work in like the nutrition industry, that if it's food grade, it's really good. Like I have bought some herbs from some dusty ass metaphysical shops, like where like it's just a shop full of giant jars of herbs, and it's just like so dusty on the top, and it's just like, how old is this? You're not going to come across that with your herbs at the grocery store. You're also not going to come across that if you purchase from somewhere like a place called like Mountain Rose Herbs is a really great place to order herbs. And obviously you can buy them on Amazon or whatever, but always think about, can I buy this at the grocery store first? And food grade herbs, again, is going to be much better, and that's going to be perfect if you want to use them in a tea or an infusion or a tincture or an ointment or whatever. If you are wanting to use them in a more like medicinal physical way than just like, I'm going to put them in a mojo bag. If you're going to ingest them or put them on your body in some way, you want them to be as clean and healthy as possible. And a lot of times that's, you know, you can find those at the grocery store. You know, those are going to be food grade herbs. And most of the time people pay more for food grade herbs. So keep that in mind for herbs. Talking about books. So if you are on a budget, the first place I would suggest, if you're on a budget, you're brand new, you want some books, or you've been practicing for a while, but you want like something new to read about, Number one, the library. I think we kind of forget that the library exists sometimes in this world of Kindle and books and Amazon coming to your door. Like, the library is free. Your tax dollars are paying for it, so why not take advantage of it? And if they don't have the book that you want, most of the time they will probably have an interlibrary loan program that will allow you to like borrow from other libraries within your county or whatever. So there is that. There are used bookstores. You can go ahead and, there are a lot of witchy books at used bookstores. I have some really, really, really cool, like, old books, witchy books that I found that are out of print now. And I found them all at used bookstores for super cheap. Also, there's Kindle. There are a lot of books that might be $20 if you buy the physical copy. And it's nice to have physical copies, don't get me wrong. But you could buy the Kindle copy for probably half as much. And you don't even have to have a Kindle. I'm hoping you know this, but you don't have to have a Kindle to read Kindle books. And even if you don't even have to have like the Amazon Kindle app, like if you don't have a tablet, because it's hard to read on the phone, there is an extension, at least for Google, I think, called Kindle Cloud Reader. And I'm sure you can do it in whatever browser is your favorite browser. They probably have a plugin or an extension, and you can just read these books on your computer. You don't need to have a tablet. So don't forget, like, those Kindle books are an option. One thing that is really, really, really important to me, and I want to mention it, there are a lot of used bookstores now that sell stuff for $1 to $5. I go to the last bookstore in downtown LA. That is on my list, Phoebe, of places I want to go, is the last bookstore. But yeah, there are like half price books. I mean, I bought a ton of books. I think I bought the Magic and Myth and Magic of Celtic, the Dane McCoy Celtic mythology book. I bought that at like a half price bookstore. It was great. But one thing that is really, really important to me, and I'm going to tell you this, and I really, really, really hope you're listening, please do not illegally download books. I know it seems like a victimless crime, but somebody works really hard to write that book. Somebody put all of their energy into writing that book for people like you. Somebody has a family and they need to feed their family and keep the lights on over their head. So please, please, please do not illegally download PDF books. I'm in some groups, and a lot of times people are like, oh, I have this PDF, come and download it. And I'm like, that is not in the public domain. And it really bothers me as somebody who is an aspiring author, as I'm sure a lot of you also are, that somebody would just like take something, and it really is like stealing. It's like stealing, it's like stealing art. If you spend a year on a piece of art and you create a print and you're trying to sell these prints to, feed your family and make a living and be a person that gets to live in this world, and somebody just steals it, like, that is not cool. So please do not illegally download books, especially since we have so many other options to get books and knowledge in other ways. So yeah, maybe books might be something you want to splurge on. If there is a book that you really want, or a book that's expensive, there was a book like, so if you don't know me very well, I'm a priestess of Aphrodite. I am devoted to her, and there was a really, really awesome Aphrodite book, and I loved it, and it's kind of like a textbook a little bit, and it was like $40. So I splurged on that. Like, $40 is not something that I usually will just buy let me just buy a random book that's this big for $40. No, but like, when you find something that you really want, don't be afraid to splurge on it. But for all those other books, if you're just trying to learn about crystals, or you're trying to learn about herbal magic, don't be afraid to visit the library or half price books, or, look and see what's on Kindle. But again, also, don't buy a book because it's the cheapest book. Like, there are a lot of people who are buying, and I haven't read these books yet, but there is an author who has like super like $4.95 Kindle books out, or $4.95 just print books out. And they have like 10 print books out, all of these different things. And all the new people are like, these are great. And all the people who've been practicing for a while says, these are bullshit. So, and I haven't personally read them, so I'm not going to tell you the author. I'm not going to like be like that person. But But just be very wary of the books that you are going to put money into. Okay? Okay. All right. So statuary, I talked a little bit about making your own with clay, but you can look at thrift shops. A lot of times there are statues. I found Egyptian statues. I found some Grecian statues at the thrift shop. So don't count out the thrift shop, because a lot of times, maybe sometimes people are getting rid of like some garden statues. Like I've got an Aphrodite back there. She's really a garden statue. She's just on my altar. But, we have a lot of those things that end up showing up in thrift shops. We have some collectors who just love statues, and I don't want to be like, old people love statues and then they like pass away and their statues have to go somewhere. But that is sometimes how it goes. I've been to tons of like estate sales where there are tons of statues. If you don't have a statue, or you can't find a statue to fit the goddess or god that you want to honor, look for symbols instead. I finally got my first god statue like probably about 3 years ago. But before that, I was using a horn. I was using an antler. If you are honoring the goddess Aphrodite, for example, you might, have a piece of rose quartz or a heart or, a different symbol that to you really represents that god or goddess. So you don't need to have statues. If you are a person who honors deities, not all of us do, and I totally get that. But if you do, don't feel like you need to have a statue. You can find different symbols. And if you are working with that deity, you can even ask them in meditation or contemplation or channeling or journaling or whatever, however you connect with that deity. How can I give you respect and honor on my altar? And listen and see what they say. And they might say, hey, like a candle or a crystal or this or that. And really just listen to what they have to say, because you don't have to have a statue for every deity that you honor. Okay. Okay. I just want to make sure. For some reason, my comments aren't actually scrolling, so I have to scroll. So, alrighty. All right. So last but not least, I thought this was going to be a super short one. Huh. Okay. I'm like, I'm going to keep my lives to 10 minutes. Never. So things that you should splurge on, in my opinion, I hate to say should, things you may want to splurge on. Books, like I said, statuary. If you are honoring, like, I don't know, Hecate Triformis, and you want a 3-faced Hecate statue because that's the aspect of Hecate you are honoring and, devoted to, then yeah, okay, you might want to save up some money and splurge on that. And last but not least, classes. Cheap classes are not always better. So there are tons of classes on the internet. You can, like, I think which school I think still has their Corellian first degree classes for free, probably. And I took those way back in the day. I couldn't even tell you what they are like now, but back in the day they were fine. But cheaper is not always better. It just isn't. Sorry, there's like a little moth, and this is the last of my wine, so I'm just gonna put it over here. So cheaper isn't not always better, and I'm not just saying that because I have a pretty pricey witchcraft program, but cheaper isn't always better. And if you are going to take classes with somebody and you're going to invest money, especially if it's a series, so if you're just going to go take a one-off class, like, hey, let's learn about candle magic and it's $20, that's cool. But if you are going to invest, I have found, like, in a 10 class like series, and you can like pay up front for $200 or pay $20 per class or whatever. Just, vet that person, find out their background, find out their, if they are studying, how long have they been studying? Are they initiated in a tradition? If that's important to you, whatever is important to you. Just because I know from experience, I've gone to a Wicca 101 class, and it was basically like, open up your Scott Cunningham book and let's talk about chapter 1. It was basically a book club, kind of like it was teaching from a book that was not the teacher's book. And I thought that was like, why would I spend $20 to come here for an hour and a half if I could just read my book for free? So just be really kind of careful and, and make sure you're not committing to a series of classes that might not be for you. So if, it might be good to see if you can go to the first class, and then if you really like it, if you really like the teacher, if you like the other students, then like maybe you can then pay for the series, but don't like invest $250 plus dollars if you don't know the teacher, or you don't like them, or you don't know their background. I feel really strongly about that, because I had an old high priestess who taught, and she did not know. She was not great. She was my first like high priestess, and she tried really hard, but she had not been practicing, I think, as much as I would like my high priestess to practice. So, and she taught classes at the local shop. So keep in mind that most of the local metaphysical shops, they don't know shit about the people that they have presenting. I mean, some of them might know people, about them, but for the most part, they're like, cool, like, yeah, you can bring your people in, charge them $20 for a class. We'll take $10. You keep $10. Cool. The end. Like, they don't really care that much, because they're bringing foot traffic into their store. And why should they? They're bringing foot traffic into their store, and they're still going to get a kickback from that class. So many times they are not like vetting people. So if you have a shop that you like, and they have somebody coming, that's coming to present classes, ask people who work there. Do you know her? Like, do you like her? Do some investigation, look her up on the internet. Excuse me. I just kind of do your due diligence, so you're not throwing your money away. I've seen way too many classes where it's just, you're just like, I don't know. It's just somebody's telling you things. And like, that's not how I do my classes. If you've taken any classes with me before, like, I will not tell you how. I mean, I'll teach you how to do something, but I'm not going to tell you how to do it for the rest of your life. Like, I'm going to teach you how to do it for yourself. And a lot of the classes aren't like that. They're like, here is a consecration ritual. Do this consecration ritual for every tool you have, instead of like, oh, this is how you write your own. So to me, it's really important that if you leave a class with me, you can, because one of my things is I fully believe that you have everything that you need inside of you. You can create your own witchcraft practice from what you have right now in your body and around you. You don't need, really anything else. You might just need help accessing it, or some guidance on how to put your energy so that you have like a sustainable practice. But a lot of people just will want to tell you how to do things. And that turns out, like, a lot of times you can just read that in a book. A lot of times people are parroting what they've already read in books. So just kind of keep that in mind. You might want to really choose your classes carefully if you're on a budget, is basically what I'm saying. And I'm sure there are classes on Udemy or Teachable or something that's like 10, Udemy always has like $10 classes or whatever. And I'm sure some of them are good. I am not going to do an experiment and and throw $10 at somebody to see if they're good or not. But, some of them will be good, but just basically, I'm just asking you to vet your teachers. Make sure that they are who they say they are, and they have the experience to teach you what you're going to teach before you give them a bunch of money. So the end. So that's basically it. Jesus, my 10-minute budget witchery actually not really long, like usual. So just as kind of like a wrap up recap, you don't need tools to practice. You can practice with what you have in your own body and what you have around you. Always go with what you have access to. Jars, you don't need to buy special jars at the Cost Plus World Market. You can just clean out your jelly jars. Those are fine. And also eclectic jars. I love the way eclectic jars look in a cabinet. I'm just saying, plant a garden, explore your kitchen, look at what you have for crafts. Like, you can, look for found items. What do you have around you right now? Explore the Dollar Tree, explore the market, explore your kitchen, explore your friends' stuff. Pull your resources with your friends. I accidentally bought, do I have it right here? I think I put it somewhere, but I accidentally bought like a 2-pound bag of lavender. It's like literally this big. Do I need this much lavender in my life? No. I thought it was only like this much, but it's, I mean, it smells amazing, but it's huge. And I would love to pool my resources. I'd love to give somebody a cup of lavender for, you know, a crystal that I might need for a working. So pool your resources and just really kind of think about what's important to you. If ethically sourced crystals is important to you, then, you know, that's something you might want to splurge on, because of course those are going to be more expensive than your run-of-the-mill crystals. If organic herbs are important to you, then again, that's something you'll want to splurge on. So just kind of, you know, think about your priorities, think about where you want to put your money, and just, you know, use what you have. So that's basically it. You know, I'm around. You can always send me a message or tag me in a comment. I'd be happy to answer any questions. And that's about it. So I guess I will see you later. Bye.